Hello, YouTube. So, sorry about my long leave of absence. I needed proper motivation to get back into making YouTube videos. And thanks to a couple of friends on here, I am now back on. So, here we go. Finally, my review of Monsters and Men from the Within the Ring of Fire series by Andrew Wood. This Before I begin, I have a couple of things I want to say. So I'm dressed this way because I'm going to an interview, and I wanted to get this review out as quickly as I could to my viewing audience. So here it is. And also, if you actually do purchase this book, you may notice that my name is in this book. However, do not let that detract from your view of this review. All I did for the book, in the book, the only reason I'm in the credits is I did do a couple of proofreading things in the book, just some minor, very minor things. I did not actually contribute to any of the real content of this book. So although I might be slightly biased, just because I contributed a little bit, but this book stands on its own without even my contribution. This is all from the writing team and the people who did the formatting and the artwork. This is all on them. This book is well done in several different aspects, but I'll get to that. So, what do I think about this book? In short, I would say this book is better. Yes, I said it. I threw it down. This book is better than 77 Thrones, the Theological Codex. Now, that is quite a statement, considering I've already said that I believed that 77 Thrones was the best supplement book out there. But this was a very hard decision for me to make, which one was better. But I'm going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of why I think that this book continues to improve on this incredible series. So, unfortunately, I do not actually have a physical copy of the book yet for a couple of reasons. DriveThruRPG is being a little bit weird, and it's taking them longer to actually come out with the physical book than it probably should have. But that should be out soon. And in addition, even when it comes out, I'm going to have a difficulty affording it right now. But anyway, so on to the book, on to the contents. Now, this book is divided into, as it says in the title, into monsters and into men. So when it says monsters, it's referring to creatures that are without man-like intelligence, as Andrew Wood would say. So these creatures don't have quite enough intelligence that you could play them as a player character. However, he has an incredible selection of them. He has both animals, he has monsters in this book, and finally we get to know what the nature of the different species that live on this planet are. He goes into great detail about who created the various different species, where lions came from, where tigers may have come from, where wolves came from. He talks about that each of these creatures was put upon this world, upon Kavega Thale, by a specific divinity. And this is great information. I mean, it's so good to know that sort of information. Who created them and why? And it definitely goes into all of that information, including with the men section. So, now we're getting on to the real, what makes this book so great. So, we have 3 different tiers of play. We have a lower tier, which is at the same level as the species that are in the core saga book. They play at the same level. you should have no problem incorporating these species into your game as player characters right off the bat. They're right at the same power level as the players that you could, as the species that are in the core Saga book. So there are a total of 27. That's right. There are 27 different species that are at the same exact level as the species that are in the core rulebook. That is incredible. I have never, ever seen a game that gives you that sort of options. It gives you, if you include the species that are in the core Saga book, that's over 30. That's over 30 species that you could play that are just at a lower tier level. I haven't even gotten into the other species that you can play. So, some of the favorites from this section that I really liked, some of the additions to the ones that we have in the core book. So, one of my favorites came as a little bit of a surprise to Underwood when I told him. I really like the Hibbins. Now, the Hibbins are a species of owl-like creatures that were created by the dead goddess Ishmi. And Ishmi was a goddess of hope. She was the one that really brought hope to Kavega Thale to fight against forces of darkness and that sort of thing. She brought hope to the world. And she has now died, killed by the goddess Loptif, and her blood rained down upon the lands of her people, the Hibbins, that she created out of dream and out of hope. And these people saw their goddess fall from the sky in blood. As her blood poured upon the land, they were tainted, and they were transformed into what the goblins are now, into another playable species, and their lands turned into what is now the Blue Desert. And the surviving nomadic people of this once great people, of these once great nomads who farmed and who had great cities, now nomadically travel through Kavega Thale with a very small population. But the thing is, these people were created by the goddess of hope, so they cannot lose. They cannot lose that hope, for that is who they are. They are hope incarnate. They still go through the lands preaching that that Kavega Thale has hope. As long as they still draw breath, there is still hope for their species and for Kavega Thale. And let me tell you, this is a dark setting. So for me, there really is an appeal of playing a species that is, despite the odds, they are down and out. There are very few of them left, about 12,000 of them left. But they still cling on to that hope, still desperately fighting. And that's a player character I'd love to create. One where he, against all odds, you can root for him because he is trying his best. He is fighting against those who would fight back against him. He is still clinging on to hope. So that's one of the species I quite liked. Another one, and this is very polar opposite, I love the Typhons. And the Typhons are a snake humanoid species. They were created by the goddess Mother Yurga. And Mother Yurga is a great sea dragon who lives under the waves and is very hateful and spiteful, hateful of herself, hateful of all other species that exist on the planet. And she created this species, the Typhons, to be her minions, to bring magic, forbidden lore to Kavega Thale. And they are also a very interesting species. Almost everyone distrusts them, but they use that to their advantage. No one trusts them, so they use that to their advantage by interjecting truth into everything they say. Even with the lies they speak, there is still truth in what they say. So they are the yes mans of the world. They are the ones, the enablers. They are the ones who come to you and whisper in your ear of, oh yes, well, you should try some of what I have. I have the most wonderful things here. And they do. They are the drug dealers, they are the pirates of this world, and that is also a very appealing species to play. No one trusts them, everyone hates them, but they are still fighting against it, and they will get their way one way or another. They have what you want, and they will get it to you. So another great species. So then we have our second tier of play, which are, we have advanced species. So we have our basic species, now we have our advanced species. Now, you could play a mixed party of basic species and advanced species, but he does give advice about how to do that. You really don't need to play with player characters at the same power level. If you have a good group of role players, which you should if you're playing within the Ring of Fire, you can really get away with this. You don't have to have everyone at the same power level. However, you could have a group also of people all of the advanced power level. Now, what species do we got? We got a bunch more species that you can play as that are at an advanced level. Now, we have all sorts of very cool species in here. You have basically what are Gorgons. I do not believe they're spoke about that way, but there are just more and more. And then after we have advanced species, we have, excuse me one second, we have another really cool category that I quite like. We have master species. Now, master species are almost at they're at the highest level that you can play. And one of the species I found very interesting was probably the rarest species, one of the rarest species left on Kevega Thale, the unicorns. Now the unicorns, now they're not really exactly what you would expect them to be. They are, you know, they are born of Aray, who is the goddess who is the one who pulls the dead god of Ahura Mazda through the sky. And these unicorns are basically, they are the only horse-like species on this planet. There are no horses on Kevega Thale, so they are a very unique sight, and they are very, very powerful. But I thought it would be very cool to play. He suggests perhaps playing the last herd of unicorns on the planet, on the world, and that would be very, very interesting. They're very powerful, but you can definitely, there are many powerful species that you can interject as enemies. They would play it would be a very, very interesting game. I like, as you can kind of tell, I do enjoy playing these species where they are the underdogs. I like underdogs. I think a lot of people can say that. A lot of people like underdogs, but I'm definitely one of them. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about this particular book, because I really have, I can't find anything I don't like about this book. So the last thing I like, this book, it has, as I said, it has improved upon previous things. There are so many advantages in this book, and that is what I had asked for. That was really what I wanted. That was one of the disadvantages of 77 Thrones, is that it has a very, very short advantages section, and most of them only apply to warlocks, which we haven't seen yet. But this has tons of advantages you can use, you can add on to your players. And I forgot one more thing. There's one more thing I love about this book. One of the greatest things about this book, and that is the artwork. The artwork is so good, and you can just, looking in the credits section, you can see they've added their repertoire. They've added their repertoire of the amount of artists, new artists that they have on this project, and the art is so good, which is so important in a monster book, in a book that has species, because you need to see You need to be able to see what these species would look like. It gives you that inspiration, that first inspiration you have to read about them, to want to play them. And the artwork is so incredibly good. I would almost debate, I would say that this artwork is the best that this series has seen yet. It's incredible. I highly recommend that you pick up this book. It's a must. I would even say, as I said, I would place this slightly above 77 Thrones. I loved 77 Thrones because it really told a lot of great stories, but I've never, this is not something I have seen out of any sort of, this is not your run-of-the-mill monster manual. I would hesitate to even call it a monster manual, because how many monster manuals or monster appendixes or whatever you may call them, how many of them have so many playable species? This has probably close to 40 or 50 playable species and adds about 27 of the basic species that are very easy to play. So I am hugely impressed. I applaud you, Anderwood. This is another masterwork of RPG genius. Lightning has struck again. It is incredible. So this has gone on long enough, but if you have questions about the book, feel free to ask in the comments below or on the Facebook group, the Raw Immersive Games. Definitely get into that. Get on Facebook, get on Raw Immersive Games, and definitely join us, because we have quite the following on there, and we can talk about all these great books that have been come out with. So I will talk to you all later. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.